ACOMI, the African Communities of Manitoba Inc., is uniting the Winnipeg community through unity, friendship of people of African heritage in Manitoba, and creating understanding between peoples of African heritage and Canadians of all backgrounds. I wanted to connect with ACOMI to learn about the organization and some of its programs coming in the future.
Hi, my name is Tolu Ilelaboye. I am the Director of Operations with the African Communities of Manitoba, or as I suppose, more commonly are known as ACOMI. I have been with the organization for about 9 or 10 years now. I actually just recently stepped down from the board to take on this role to really try to kind of bolster the work that we've been doing and bring us up to full speed to say, let's move into the future at full steam. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now and who I am.
What is ACOMI? Is that how you say the acronym properly?
Exactly, yeah. But ACOMI is an organization that focuses in on providing culturally relevant supports to people of African descent in Manitoba, while also looking at how can we advocate for people who identify as Black, African, Caribbean, person of African descent, to ensure that they can find a sense of safety and belonging in the province. And so we do things from advocacy to governance models and support to other affiliate organizations, again, of which we have 42 with the organization registered. And then we also do provide free tax clinics, for example. A large portion of our participants at our resource center that we run in downtown Winnipeg actually engages a large population of Indigenous folks as well. And the broader population, our women's program is for all women, despite where you come from. And so with that program, we actually had quite a few women from East Asia. And so although we do identify as a Black-led, Black-owned organization, or a 3B organization as a popular term right now, we don't restrict our programming to people of African descent. We really do try to make sure that we are building inclusivity in our province and building cultural relevancy and supports through diversifying our program to include everybody.
Being a part of a community, regardless of like someone's backgrounds. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a goldfish brain in terms of when people start saying numbers, but you mentioned there was 43 different communities that make part of this organization?
Yeah, so we have 42 different affiliate organizations who are registered with ACOMI at this time. And that number fluctuates obviously year to year, but those organizations are made up of smaller cultural groups. So whether it be the Sierra Leone group, or there's maybe 4 or 5 different Nigerian groups, but they all kind of represent different communities within the Nigerian context. We have Ghana Union, we have Congo, but we also on top of that have Black-led, Black-owned organizations like the African Movie Film Festival and Africana, who are members of the organization. So those organizations also do their own programming and things like that as well. And they're not just focused on one cultural group. So those 42 members make up everything that ACOMI is, and that's how we function as an umbrella organization. But we rely on the support and community development of these individual groups to be able to do the work that we do. So we really are kind of looking at ACOMI as a community organization that works with community organizations to do the work that we see on the ground. Yeah,
so sort of a bridge or a hub between all of these different organizations and communities.
Yeah, exactly. We really try to pull, in 2020, we were one of the forerunners in creating the Black Community Collective, for example. So ACOMI kind of stands as one of the larger Black organizations, Black serving organizations in the province, and one of the more established ones, particularly on the African side. And so in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, we decided to bring together all the Black serving organizations across the city of Winnipeg predominantly to kind of come together as a single Black community collective to talk about some of the issues that we've been seeing and to collectively respond to what we had seen with the Black Lives Matter protests and what we were seeing against, anti-Black racism in our province. And so work like that is kind of what founds ACOMI as a pillar of this community, and being able to really bring our community together and also create opportunities for individuals and families and children and youth in our communities as well.
When we're seeing like issues of like the death of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of that focuses on, the states. What is that kind of relationship here in Manitoba?
I think it's actually a really challenging misconception to think that racism like that only happens in the States. You know, shortly before George Floyd was murdered in the States, we had the murder of a black man by or a detaining of a black man by police officers in Manitoba, right? So when you think about the situation, we think about the States, we think about you know, the political movements of America, the civil rights movements in America, but the fact of the matter is that that stuff happens in Canada. But as we've seen with many protests, many movements across this country, it's difficult in Canada, I think, to get a national movement going because we are so large. And I think Canada splits itself very distinctly into three major groups, and even within those groups, there's smaller groups, notwithstanding the trucker protests, which I won't necessarily say my true honest feelings.
That's a can of worms we don't need to open up right now.
But I think, you know, people often think, oh, well, it's not like that in Canada. But I think about the fact that I went out, I say this, tell the story often, but I went out to Pinawa and I was just there with a group of friends. There's all women of color, mostly black. And there was a guy there wearing a Confederate flag hat. You know, that I've had instances of, I was coming out of church one day and some two guys in Windsor Park drove past us screaming niggers, right? Like that kind of stuff happens in Canada all the time. And to I guess minimize the fact that that doesn't happen. Maybe we don't see it. We don't, because I mean, a lot of our news comes from the States. We don't really talk about some of these things in the same way in Canada because we really do promote our multiculturalism and diversity, which is really important. But also that can't overshadow the fact that these things are still happening. There's a reason why there was an anti-Asian hate movement. There was a reason why there's Black Lives Matters movements happening here in the province, happening here in this country, because these things happen, and we hear these stories all the time. People come to Canada, they just want to get a job, and they can't even get a job. And so it's not even just at the community level; it's in employment, it's in education. There's a project we're actually working on right now called the Then and Now Project, which paints a picture of the history of Black community organizing in our province. And it's interesting because during the 60s and 70s, there was a large contingency of immigration from the Caribbean predominantly. Mm-hmm. And during that time, the folks who had come over from the Caribbean, they actually amassed themselves to organize as Black organizers, to actually infiltrate these different political groups and become leaders of these political groups so that we could actually have Black voices in there, because they were having to fight against, you know, their kids being in ESL classes when, you know, in Jamaica and Trinidad, English is the first language, but they were being told that they have to go to ESL even though they speak English fluently, right? So this form of racism, the systemic racism that we see, is everywhere across this country. I mean, again, coming back to the trucker protest, you can't tell me that that wasn't racially charged, first and foremost, but also when you think about the comparisons and how that was dealt with, how much discrimination was inherently built into the response to that protest, and these ways we think about racism and against multiculturalism in Canada, it fundamentally needs to change, because we see stuff like that happening here all the time.
For information months like Black History Month, do you think this can help inform the public about some of these issues that Black Canadians are facing, and kind of give awareness for them to maybe empathize better with, you know, the experiences Black Canadians have gone through?
I think what's really beautiful about Black History Month, I mean, Manitoba, we have Black History Month Manitoba, who works on building knowledge and experience around what's going on in our Black communities from the historical aspect, but also right now where people can get engaged. And I think there's a lot of power in that, to be able to say, you know, this month is dedicated to this group, to us, to say, come and engage with us, come and learn about the culture, so come and understand what's going on. So that I think there's a lot of power in that. I think there's a lot of opportunity in that space. I do think that we could look at Black History Month not only as a single month, and like really build it into our education and build it across the year, right? You know, I think about Indigenous Peoples Day as about like you get a single day for people that have been here there forever, right?
Yeah.
So I think that Black History Month definitely gives opportunity to highlight what's happening. But I also think about movements like the United Nations Declaration for People of African Descent, which ends in 2024. And how can we highlight that ongoing throughout the year to be able to say, let's talk about these issues, but also let's talk about how we can all connect, because it's not necessarily just about empathizing, it's also about actioning that. I think that a lot of the work has historically been placed on the people who've been historically oppressed. And so it's time for the people who have been the oppressors to deliberately and intentionally and fully engage with these movements, to fully engage with even just something as little as come and volunteer, donate $5 monthly, right, to a Black-led organization, buy Black, like go and find, there's Black-owned Manitoba, you can check out Black businesses, go and support these organizations that, you know, fund and support these communities that have been historically disadvantaged.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We need to kind of change our lens and focus to incorporate, you know, minority communities into the mainstream and into the mindset year round, whether it's like a Pride, like Asian Heritage Month, whatever organization or denomination or group that kind of has this 1 month where it's focused. Like we need to tie that into just society. Like we're just so concerned about, like in the West, it's like whiteness and like being cis or straight is kind of like the standard overview, but that needs to shift.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's some really cool things happening at ACOMI. What are some of the programs that are coming up? And I know you they recently hired a new director of community programs.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've seen so much growth. It's been really exponential. And so kind of coming back to what I just said, after 2020, we've really seen a huge influx of support. So I'm not saying everything that I said previously, it's not to say that we haven't seen support come through and people really step up and stand up with us. We've seen, for example, the Black Community Collective transitioned into helping to form the Police Accountability Coalition, for example. So a lot of really cool new partnerships in there. We hired a new director of programs to help grow our programming, to increase our outreach. Because of that, we were able to start our seniors program, which is amazing. We've had a lot of African seniors say that, where do we go? So, all the aunties and uncles, they're coming. We take them to games, you know, hockey games, football games. We go out and do activities, which has been really great. We also have an upcoming free tax clinic, which we're really excited about. So if you want to get your taxes done for free, you can come down to the ACOMI Resource Center. We're also launching a new project right now that we're so pumped about. It's called the Then and Out Project, and it basically paints a picture of Black community organizing in this province from the individual level all the way to some of the biggest level, you know, anti-apartheid movements, Black Lives Matters protest, all of these different major movements that we've seen in the past. So that project, I'm really pumped about it. It's going to be a digital library of content and history in this province. So we are constantly evolving with what's going on, with what the community needs. From, you know, again, our women's program, we're transitioning our youth program, making it bigger. We partnered with Royal Bank of Canada to offer larger scholarships to Black Manitobans, Black Manitoban youth particularly. So I can't even go through the whole list, because it's constantly changing. Hiring a director of community programs really allowed us to be able to upscale a lot of the work that we're doing, provide more services, but you know, we can always continue to use that support. We can always continue to use the financial support, the physical support. So we always encourage anybody and everybody to come on down and hang out.
That's a lot of stuff, and it sounds really cool. I'm really excited to see how everything kind of like comes together in the coming months.
Yeah, totally. I'm so pumped for the summer. I think it'll be good. I also am hoping and thinking that Folklorama will be back, which means that we'll get the Africa Pavilion back on track. So that's one of the largest pavilions. I mean, it hosts every country from Africa. So it's not just one country, it's literally the entire continent of Africa. So hopefully Folklorama pops off again this summer. We'll have another festival, and hopefully all of our performers have been working hard to change up their dances this year. So we'll see.
Where can people go to if they want to join ACOMI, and where can they find more information?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely take a look at our website, www.acomi.ca. We also have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our YouTube page is lacking, but it is there. And our website's actually under construction, but feel free. You can also reach out to us, info@acomi.ca, pretty easy. ACOMI, ACOMI. So reach out to us, connect with us, reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Enjoying the content from you, Multicultural? Subscribe so you can stay up to date with everything that we're doing. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.